Hello, welcome. I'm Janelle, and this channel is Janelle Art. I want to first of all start off by saying welcome to new subscribers. We've uh, just, I'm so tickled to to welcome new people um, into the pebble drawing world. And just bear with me. I'm a little bit flummoxed here. Let me get our participant parameters set. That should cover us. And let me just start off. I have had a day. It's been a wild day. And those are the days we just have to push through, don't we? We have to kind of keep on going even when things get challenging. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to set that example. And off we go. This is not, let's just start. This is not a tutorial channel to teach you how to paint rocks. This is a channel to come to hang out with some other people who have a creative practice or want to have a creative practice. And it's not limited to fine art. If you are a craftsperson or consider yourself a an artist, that's good. Craftsperson, that's great. Maybe your creativity is cooking. Maybe your creativity is dance or sculpture. Any kind of creative work you do, it's welcome here in this space. I am a multimedia artist. I work in everything from fiber arts, fabric arts, visual arts. I do some beadwork, just all kinds of things. Right now I'm working in watercolor, and let me just quickly give you a glimpse of the sorts of paintings that I'm working on. I'm working on a series of watercolor renderings of rocks. This one's in progress here. But that's the sort of work that I am on right now. And to cultivate the art practice, we can take some steps and do some things that help us get to our creative spaces, help us to literally warm up our hands if we're going to be using our hands in our art. We can warm up our well, maybe not warm up, but focus. Hi, Irish Smart, welcome in. But help us to focus our concentration and calm our mind, quiet down all of those yapping monkeys that are running through our head. Put aside things like emails with, 5 different fights being offered on, on the menu for today. I think I'm just going to just limit myself to one fight per person per day in my email. Just kind of had it with that. It's not leading to, sometimes you just get so busy, but you're not effective in what you're producing. So as we age, particularly, we know that we have limited resources that become ever more limited, and we can make some choices about how we spend ourselves with our time and with our effort. I discovered that a little bit of mindfulness practice just made my work, the quality of my work increase by leaps and bounds. And I just kept up with the mindfulness practice. 5 minutes a day. Now, we're not going to talk about mindfulness techniques. I'm just going to demonstrate what I do. If you want to seek mindfulness, there's tons of apps, there's tons of books, there's lots of meditations you can learn. But figure out what that is for you. It could be hanging out here and just gazing at a pebble drawing for 5 minutes. I think that might work. Yeah, any questions you have, throw them into the chat. I see you guys out there. Welcome in. Please feel free to jump into chat. We do have a really nice group of people. Just going through some sketches from our last live stream. I added in some line drawings and zhuzhed up a couple of the little sketches from the other day, but kind of fun. So I know I've racked up just a handful of new subscribers, so I'm just giving you a quick art show to see what you might be looking at if you're hanging around the channel. we'll go from the blank pieces of paper and my process for adding some water-based media to that. That usually happens in layers, so we get various different colors. Sometimes work in a more monochromatic palette. Yeah, so Irish Smart works for me, watching the magic of a few drops of paint turning a piece of paper into a thing of beauty. And every once in a while I'll do something that's less of a warm-up and more of actual art. Here's just a kind of a small format watercolor painting. Yes, so yeah, there we are. There's the kind of introductory art show. Apologize if my voice is a bit hoarse. It's been a day. So the first step in this is to cut some pieces of paper. I usually work often in the 3-inch format. I like this 4x4, but for you guys, this vertical format, this 4x8 works. So I have watercolor paper. That's what I'm using. If you're using derm media, find a substrate that works for what you're using. And then I apply paint. I'll start with a wash of just maybe a little bit of splash of, often the place I start is what's left on my palette from the previous project. So here's an example of a palette. Here's some sorts of colors on here that I've been using for the larger painting that I'm working on. I think I'll turn this around so that we can, when I come back to that, I have some things to finish up, so I don't want to use all that paint up I've mixed for that project, but we've got, certainly there's always something around here. There's always a palette or something. I've got things going and brewing and bubbling. I like to use watercolor paints. I like to use Neocolor 2 watercolor pastels. Sometimes gel crayons. Pretty much watercolor pencils. Anything that is a water-based media. So the shorthand on that is water-based media can be put on the paper. Most of it can be reactivated, and it interacts, each layer interacts a little bit with the other layers around it. Let's get to put some, slopping a little paint on that. I realized I wasn't using much yellow, so maybe should we start with a little yellow? Just taking that straight out of the palette. I've sprayed water on this. The water helps the paint to spread out and give us those sort of unpredictable and magical blooms, and lets the paint move across the paper. Anybody has any requests for colors, go ahead and throw them out in the chat. Try to go a little bit bright this time. This is carmine. It's lovely, sort of a bright pink. And I think that yellow is probably a Hansa yellow. I can't see the edges of the half pans. Again, not a tutorial, just something to watch while we talk about the creative process. I feel like a little bit of orange would just liven this up, so. How are you, Irish Mart? How's it going? Been a lot of storm and drying around the community in the last few days, or one of the communities. really tickled at, we've got about, yeah, we've got about 15 new people subscribing, and for my channel, quite a that's quite a good whack of people, and I know that they're coming from the art and crafting world, so I'm just couldn't just tell you guys, couldn't be more excited about it. Now, the reason I have a stack, if you've been here for a while, you know this. We work on these in groups. We'll set this aside so that the paint can dry. But as it starts to, even already, you can start to see the color pooling in the little dark spots in there because the paper is textured. So we'll let that dry down, and that'll let those colors stay where they are. If I put more layers of color on right now, everything will run together and it will have a lovely, I mean, we work with brown in here, but we'll get here if we mix all the colors together. So we want them to stay nice and vibrant. We'll let them have some time to dry down, and that will help that problem of browning. I had like 80% set up here. I was feeling like I had close to 95% set up, and never really. There's always something. So a regular feature on this channel is a technical difficulty or a side quest, some sort of arty side quest. So if you're painting a painting and you're using watercolor techniques, you're probably going to tape that down. Let me adjust this a little bit. Hang on. We're going to go for a ride. There we are. Most of the time you would be taping the paper down to keep it from warping and shrinking. Since these are just sketches, we're not going to get that formal with it. I do try to control the movement of the paper by spraying both sides with a little bit of water. Hey, no face. Oh, well, okay. What am I? I know darn well I'm not chopped liver, but aren't I at least mashed potatoes? No face. Alrighty. Got those soaked pretty good. We should be able to get the paint to move pretty well on that. Love you right back. Thank you, man. I'm quite pleased if you're here for the art. I think that's good for you. I think that's good for anybody that you're hanging out with. I just know having a creative practice leads us to be individually more happy when we can express ourselves in creative ways. And if we're happier, then we're going to be less hard on the people around us. And overall, this is my plan for creating world happiness. More art, more people engaging in creative work for themselves. And, maybe you're a woodworker, maybe you're just making beautiful objects, it's going to populate our environment with beautiful objects. It will literally make the world more beautiful. That was a little yellow-green from Lucas and a little bit of the quinacridone. That color that hit and bloomed out, that was a quinacridone color. Quinacridone gold. Why can't I find quinacridone magenta? Yeah, I am at the talking to myself point of my day. This is a risky move because red and green are complementary colors, which means if you mix them together, you're going to get some fantastic shades of brown. I think I ended up. I was aiming for quinacridone magenta. I think I landed in probably alizarin crimson. There it is. I see what I was hunting for. Boy, apologies. It sounds like I'm doing some vocal fry, and I've just got some hoarseness, so. Let's go for some blues, shall we? How about some cobalt blue? Was that who or Cloudy? No Face's cat is helping him with some uh, some cat sculpture. Oh golly. That's cobalt blue. It's just a real, just down the middle, beautiful shade of blue. Toss in a little bit of cyan. Cyan is the blue that gets used in four-color process printing. So, magazines, anything that comes off a printing press. Four-color process will use magenta, cyan, process yellow, and black. So we get some random artifacts. That's part of, I'd say we get that on most shows, right? Oh, your roommate. Oh, okay. Is is that an actual 3D printer? I think my mind went a bit scatological on that one. Well, I know what my cat does. My cat's sculpting things for me daily. Cat's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. So if we're lucky, we get the segment where Janelle confused. And I'm here for it. We just always come away laughing from those, don't we? Almost always. Sometimes it takes me a couple, 3 days before I realize I was, telling my own jokes. Yeah. All right, let's get into some of those magical Daniel Smith watercolors. The super granulating watercolors, they always cheer me up. So, my so far favorite is this beautiful one called Cascade Green. Hi, Maya. Wow, that went on very forest green. We will literally watch paint dry. And you didn't know. You did know that was the content you wanted on YouTube. I will go watch watercolor paint dry. So do you see how this is starting out, this foresty green? It's almost the color of my craft mat here. And I'm telling you, it'll dry down. You won't even believe where this paint goes. I've got quite a bit of water on the paper. Here's a little bit of technical. Well, we are sort of playing and warming up. The super granulating colors quickly. Some watercolors will create a fine wash where there's a beautiful, delicate gradient, and other watercolors have bits of pigment that precipitate out, and they sink down into the texture of the paper. And when the paint is activated with water, sometimes it splits out into a couple of colors, and it's a bit of alchemy. The secret is, if you're using any of these watercolors, you need to use a lot of water. Water is what activates them. Oh, I so want to just cover this entire piece with paint. I'm resisting the urge. We're going to try and leave some negative spaces in there. Yeah. Irish Mart says, watching paint dry is more enjoyable than work or household chores. I agree. So I'm going to slide that up. And, well, maybe I'll just take it up to you, camera-wise, a little bit here. Do you see how we're beginning to get some turquoise blues? We're getting these splotches and blotches that are coming out. And remember, I pointed out, it just looked forest green when it first hit the paper. So I'm not doing a bunch of fancy stuff with the brush. Just put the paint onto wet paper using quite a wet brush, and then some water into the paints over here in a half pan. I'm talking about working into a wet background. Let me just work into this one with a dry background and show you the difference. See that very dark color when the paint just first hits it? Dark forest green, you're like, okay, that's Cascade green. I'm coming to you from Oregon, out in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And the Cascade Mountains. Oh, I had quite a lot of water on the brush there. Cascade Mountains, lots of forests, the Pacific Ocean, so these misty, cloudy, rainy skies, and lots of trees, lots of shades of greens and lichens and moss and mushrooms. So I look at this color and I think it's really aptly named to be Cascade Green. And it just does seem to have so many of the shades of green we've got out in our surrounding environment. Yeah, what household chores could you do while watching paint dry? Well, you could wait for the the dryer to get done. I think that counts as a household chore. And why just sit there staring at a wall when you can stare at paint dry? We will answer rhetorical questions on this channel. We'll answer actual questions. Sometimes to great comedic effect. Oh my god, I can't wait till Trigger Happy Customs comes back. Yeah. Slide this over. I kind of want to do two things at once. I want you to be able to watch the paint dry, I also want to paint. Oh my god. Oh, we have a huge, nasty weather system just slamming into the country right now. And at the end of December, I ordered more paint from a company on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast, and I keep getting these updates that say your package has been delayed due to extreme weather events. So I'm not in an area where we've expected a big accumulation of ice and snow, but and I will not be complaining because if the worst that happens to me is my paint is delayed, and I just, oh golly, just my thoughts go out to everybody who's um, shoveling snow and dealing with that right now, because it seems pretty awful. So I talked about how the paint colors precipitate out and it looks like one color out of the tube, but then as you add water it activates. You see this turquoisey bottle green that's washed out. It's in the water puddle, and then we've got these light mossy colors starting to show themselves. Magic tricks with paint. So there's a lot of nerding out about the paint, which is that's enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is not a bad thing in life. I won't I won't apologize for being enthusiastic, and I hope that you are enthusiastic. I hope that if you're a woodworker, you go out and you pick up whatever it is, a piece of walnut, a piece of we watched Dan uh, with purple poplar. Just I was like, there it is. There's the artist in that fella, just sticking its head up. And you can get out there, get your hands on the materials, and your brain starts to work away on what might be, what might come into existence, because you've got a creative mind and you've got some raw materials at hand. Um, for anybody who's thinking, God, I can't paint. I don't know. Do you like colors? Can you hold a writing implement? Because if you can write your name with a pen or pencil, you have the dexterity to hold a colored pencil, which you can use to color in a coloring book. And there are some fantastic coloring books available now. If you go down to any craft store, or I'll even see them at, they used to be a Dollar Tree. And find yourself an adult coloring book. If you can find one that's a topic that you like, especially if you can find one that has the coloring pages are only printed on one sheet, so you don't have a coloring page on the front and back of a sheet. And get a pack of Crayola. Don't go for the Rose Art. Go for the Smith & Vinnie Crayola brand coloring pencils. A 12 pack, a 48 pack. They're they're very, very reasonably priced, and they're very blendable. The color is bright. It goes onto the paper easily. And spend some time just coloring. I don't know if you can touch back to as a kid. I hope you had a chance to do some coloring, and how many hours you could just sort of lose yourself, get into a flow state. Well, you can still do that as an adult, and you can do it using some pretty simple uh, coloring pencils and a coloring book. You might work on that and just really enjoy yourself. No bot needs a wardrobe. Yeah, this color is is that undersea green? If I'm wrong on that, Maya will. Maya is our loyal and skilled moderator here. She hails from Norway. She paints some fantastic watercolor landscapes, and I find her very inspiring. her story is that she began watching YouTube tutorials on painting and has 4 years ago basically has taught herself how to paint beautiful landscapes, and she just makes it look effortless. I got the trick out of her the other day. It's like, God, I've been wondering, how does she do this? Like, I will be painting on a side-by-side live stream. I'll look, she's got the paper wetted. She runs a line of paper or paint down the side, and which in traditional watercolor technique, you set the paint into the water and you have to give it some time to work. And I'll glance back over, go to my painting work for what I think is just a moment. I look over and she's got trees, she's got mid-ground, foreground. It's, yeah, it turns out that she was watching tutorials that are on fast, they're edited to be speeded up. And so when she was teaching herself to paint, she kept pace with that. And I'm telling you, it's remarkable. So I will ask Maya to do a little tiny scrap of work right here. Will you please drop your own channel link there so people can find you? And thank you to Maya for her help in chat. She's full of tons of information about art supplies, and just just so grateful to have you on board for this. I know my subscribers just that's okay. I'll stop embarrassing you and myself, but all right. You guys feeling the greens and blues? I always just love this. I love these. I'm kind of a I'm just tongue-tied. Just I'm looking at the Cascade green as it's done its thing. So if you're out there going, what the heck is she doing? I am playing. I recommend playing. I recommend experimenting with whatever it is you're doing. If you get an idea, a little creative idea, something that's just a bit of whimsy, I encourage you to chase that down. Follow the whimsy. You see what that stuff's doing? You see this light blue seeping out in there? Oh my golly. So, yeah, if you're looking to see something that I find inspiring in the more traditional uses of watercolor, and she gets the paint to do tricks in a whole different way than I get the paint to do tricks. And I think between the two of us, if you can find the way to expand your own conception of what watercolor painting is and give yourself permission to just dive in and just play a little. I'm going to do this last square with a single pigment traditional watercolor, and it's a really beautiful color called magnesium green. But I think if I get this on here, you will quickly be able to see the difference between the super granulating pigments and just our traditional one color watercolor paint. And it's beautiful, but I'll tell you, it's no Daniel Smith Cascade Green. If you just saw this one, you'd go, well, that's pretty good looking bit of paint. But it lacks the complexity that the super granulating colors do. And I'll tell you, there are things where this super granulating paint, if you're trying to paint the side of a cottage on a seashore, this is not going to look great. If you're trying to paint the foreground where there's plants and dirt and bits of this and that, that paint will work well for that. And maybe the side of the cabin needs a flatter color. So I'm trying to get a different density in the paint. Trying to make this as fancy as I can. Maybe that's not the right demonstration technique. So it goes smoothly. The paper's pretty wet, so the pigment is in suspension in the water, and you can get it to move fairly smoothly across the surface of the paper. Maybe I'll dot in a little bit more. So it flows very well. I'll bring it up so you can see it. And as it dries down, the hue is going to hold. It's not going to shift hue. It's not going to change from dark green to pale blue. It will look this way when it's wet, and the saturation will change as the water evaporates out of the paint. But the hue, the color itself, it won't shift darker, lighter, to more blue, to more yellow. And I'm going to wrap up our painting segment here pretty quickly, unless anybody has any requests to throw out. And we'll move on and do a couple of pebble drawings, and that's that. So that dark green, that dark forest green, as it dries down, I tried to leave kind of a puddle of it here. That's still maybe half the saturation, but over here, the value dropped way down to this ethereal, sort of looking at a landscape through fog kind of an effect. Yeah. It's blowing your mind. I don't know if it's blowing your mind half as much as it's blowing mine. And I've been painting with this for, I don't know, a couple months anyway. And here we've got, you can really see what that super granulating color does. You get enough water and you put it into, work it wet paint onto wet paper. And there's really some separations here, these little fingers of pale blue. It's still a little wet here, but what in the world? How do they do? I don't even know how they do it. It's a mix of, there's probably, I think, 3 different pigments contained in that single paint, so it's got some paint magic can happen. This undersea green is also pretty nice. It stays kind of a medium green, certainly leaning towards yellow, but the granulation that comes out of it is a dusty brown, which I think is terrific for landscapes or pebble drawings. All right, let's take a closer look at this magnesium green, and the changes in intensity here. It's darker because there's more paint. It's lighter because it's washed out. Now, if you're a beginning painter and you're working with this, it's gonna confuse your brain. It's gonna be you'll have to embrace it. So maybe not for beginners, maybe absolutely for beginners. I don't know. I don't know if you just want to be absolutely charmed by the magic of super granulating paints, or if in a little project like this, we take advantage of the thing that the paint does. So we'll come back to these. I'm going to set them aside. They probably need a good 10 minutes to dry down. And then if you really give it time to dry down, the Cascade Green, you're going to end up something. This one was painted weeks ago with a very light wash. I can't resist one more little demonstration of what this paint looks like wet out of the half pan. This. This is where it starts. And one of the other aspects of watercolor I really like is a little bit of watercolor goes so far. Just a little touch of paint and get to wash. All right, time for a pebble drawing. Yeah, undersea green, and it's nice for landscape. It does look like kelp. It's a very kelpy green. If you're a scuba diver and you've been familiar, particularly in the, I mean, I think all the world's oceans have kelp, but we certainly do get them along the Oregon coast as well. It's just pondering what the market for colors for painting undersea scenes is. I don't know. It's probably a bigger niche than I think it is. Let's see, I just sorted out a handful of I don't know. Let's go with something. Let's go with something kind of colorful here. So that looked a bit like play, and I'll confess it is. It's play, but it gets my hand warmed up. Gives me an opportunity to get a feel for what the paper and the paint are doing on any given day. The humidity can impact how the watercolor media work. Some days I'll touch the paint to the paper, it just soaks into the paper and it doesn't go anywhere, and it dries very fast. And other days, different scene. So a little bit of a warm-up like that can help you to get your feel for how the media is working before you come and then work on maybe a painting like this. I wouldn't want to come into my studio, stick the brush in water, stick it in paint, and just go right to here. That's where blobs, blurbs, and things that make you use short words happen. That said, if that's your habit and that's how you regularly work, rock on and do you. But I find that watercolor can be a bit of a frustrating medium to work in, and anything you can do to smooth that out is usually a positive thing. Let's see. I've got a couple of Sakura brand Pigma Micron. These are archival pigment-based ink. They are not water-based media. So step, I'm going to drop in these outlines, and I'm using something that when I get this wet again, which I will, these lines won't shift. Test your pens before you, if you're working in mixed media, or you may have your pen ink bloom all over, and then you've got something else you've got to work around. So this is just another brand. Professional waterproof technical pen. Accurate was another brand. And let's talk a little bit about mindfulness as we come to this section. What I'm doing is I'm taking a moment, I'm paying attention to the breath as it enters my nose, as it goes into my lungs, as my chest rises with that breath. I'm not holding it, I'm just letting it cycle right back out in a circular, sort of a relaxed rhythmic breathing. I'm letting my eyes look at this. I'm visualizing areas where my pen can meet the paper, and I'm just going to begin to outline these shapes. And thoughts are coming into my head, and for this interval, I'm choosing to not engage with those thoughts. And the thoughts could be anything from car needs an oil change. Oh, somebody was giving me a hassle today. Do I need to, go do a chore? Those will wait. So I'm gently bringing my attention back to the task that's at hand. Now, you can be mindful about anything you're doing. Maybe you're kneading dough for a loaf of bread. Maybe you've got a screwdriver and you're, unscrewing a screw. Maybe you're using a colored pencil in a coloring book and you're moving your hand back and forth. The human brain will wander. Mindfulness and meditation is not about having a completely still mind. It's not going to happen. Your brain's not built to be completely still. Your brain is built to think. You can ask your brain to just come back. This may be 5 minutes of just asking my brain, come back to what we're doing. Come back to the here and now. What that's going to accomplish for me is it's going to quiet my nervous system. It's going to slow my heart rate. It's going to reduce my blood pressure. I'm going to practice being focused on a creative task, so that's a benefit that builds over time. I'm not going to worry about the things that might have happened in the past. I'm not going to future trip out to things that have not yet happened. Those two things in particular, spending a lot of time thinking about stuff that happened yesterday and earlier, that'll get you into a really depressed mental state. Worrying about things that might happen tomorrow, next week, that will fuel your feelings of anxiety. You don't like feeling depressed and you don't like feeling anxious. Cultivating mindfulness will help you be in the present. So, repetitive motion activities. Like this is a repetitive motion with the pen. It's a repetitive motion with my eye to identify the sort of arbitrary lines between the areas of where the paint comes together. My brain is looking for those, finding those. And then I'm just tracing out what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. It's a deceptively simple activity, but it's activating a particular type of a neurological pattern in my brain that's calming and helps to increase the levels of dopamine. I'm going with a circular shape because that also helps soothe the nervous system. And if you want to do a Google uh, rabbit hole hunt, you could Google neurographic art. Some research has been done on the benefits of creating shapes and then coming into these little spaces and rounding off anything that's sharp, turning it into a curvilinear design. Just makes our brains really happy to do that. Quiets us, soothes us, helps us regain our balance when things are upsetting. And that's life. You really can't avoid upset. It's just a part of modern living. And probably always was. Maybe not just modern living, but so you can go at whatever pace is comfortable. I try not to rush. I try to just work at the pace that my hand is functioning. Some days my hand is full of arthritis and inflammation and it just doesn't want to doesn't want to coordinate. At least at the beginning of a sketch. I do often find that by the end of a sketch or multiple sketches that my fine motor coordination is improved. All right, you guys want a closer look at that? I'll bring that up for you. Yeah. And just a heads up, we're going to run for an hour tonight, so we're coming really close to our quit time here. But I'm going to get back into this. And there's no correct way to do this. There's no official way to do this. So long as when you find yourself distracted, just come back to that awareness of your breathing. You're going to be breathing anyway. It's not anything fancy you have to figure out how to do. And it's as simple as just noticing I'm breathing in, breathing out. The more you put your attention onto that feeling of the air coming into your body and then leaving your body, it's just calming. That's how meditation has been done for centuries. I think a lot of meditation practitioners or teachers would have you start with a breathing meditation. And just for that simple reason, like you always have your tool with you, up until you don't. This intrusive thought. We do stop breathing. I think it's good while we have the opportunity to be alive and be breathing that we can enjoy our lives as much as we can. Try to say no to things that are trying to butt into our lives and get us unbalanced and unhappy. If anybody has any sort of mindfulness practice, or maybe an app that you like to use. I know I've used Calm in the past. Calm has a whole bunch of just menus of different topics of different types of meditation, everything from walking meditation to guided progressive relaxation. I do like those, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain. the progressive relaxation meditations, where you tense up your muscles and you start at your toes and you curl your toes and then let it go. Flex your foot and let it go. And you do it to a breath, or maybe you hold the flex for so many breaths and you relax for a count or a number of breaths. And you just work your way up your body. And those can really alleviate some of that sort of pain if you're, you know, of course, I'm not your doctor. You'd be medically cleared to do this, which is usually a fairly low hurdle to be cleared to do a relaxation meditation. But I do feel a pretty significant reduction in my pain levels when I use that type of a meditation. Yeah, so if you've got something you like and you'd like to share it, I'd love to hear about it. Pretty sure other subscribers here would benefit from knowing something that might be helpful. Yeah. Yeah, I thought Maya says the colors on that one are beautiful. It is, yeah, it's very lush. It's very satisfying to get in and do some of these circles. Crystal Seeker 71, welcome in. Welcome in. Yeah. Yes, I'm curious. My brain just went, okay, where do you look? Are you a rock hound? Is this a person named Crystal who is seeking in the world? Do you just know where all the good crystal shops are in town? Really, any of those things? I do. I do have a bit of a fairly small collection of crystals. I really just love rocks. Yeah. You're a crystal buff. I love it. Love it. Yeah. What's capturing your imagination these days, if you don't mind sharing? I've got a chunk of amethyst crystal um, right on my bedside table, so it's kind of the last thing I gaze at before I turn out the light. And I turn on the light in the morning, it's right there. So my head is just full of amethyst purple, dazzling my imagination. And I just like pretty rocks. I'm really not up on, you know, the yeah. Get a chunk of. I have a friend who is, and she sends me pieces of rose quartz and tells me to put it in my pocket so that my heart will heal. And you know, it's a pretty rock. I'll put it in my pocket. I don't know if it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna help those stents settle in, but it's not gonna hurt anything, is it? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's take a look at the numbers here. We're right at an hour. Oh, there's 5 of you here. Yeah. Amethyst is relaxing. Oh, you're a watercolorist? An artist who works with watercolor. I'm not sure. Like watercolorists. That sounds a bit. It sounds a bit restrictive, actually. So, yeah, what do you think, Maya? Should we run another, maybe go another 15? I kind of feel like, because I've got the new subscribers just coming in here, and I would like to have a completed pebble drawing. Kind of went big on this 4 by 8. I think there's something sort of satisfying in a video where you can see things get finished. So, yeah, executive decision. We're going to finish this one, and then I'll run the we'll run the end of stream art show, and we'll take a look at what that Cascade Green did as it dried down. I know I've just been geeking out on the Cascade Green. I hope that you guys are not. Oh, not the Cascade Green again. But if we can get through the storm, we do have more paints headed our way, and they're being shipped with UPS. So I think that bodes well for us actually receiving the package. And just I'll plug it again. It's an order from Jerry's Artorama, and I've been so pleased with their selection. Their prices are competitive, if not beating the other art supply company I was ordering from last year. And the other art supply company uses FedEx for their deliveries. And I watched for a week as my package was sitting in somewhere in the Midwest and not moving and not moving and not moving. I noticed with UPS, every time I look to do the tracking, my package has made some progress. So when I'm dropping a couple handy on the art supplies, I want to see it making its way to me. I don't want to see it sitting in some warehouse in Wisconsin. It's not even doing Wisconsin any good. Bring me my paint. Just me. I would say 40 years ago, we had a number of really great art supply places in town. I could go down to the university bookstore, and Crystal says, I'm glad you came up on my feed. I started this kind of meditative painting. Wonderful. Nova Scotia. Oh, welcome in. Glad to have you. Oh, wonderful. I could tell you a boring genealogy story here, but I'm guessing from Nova Scotia you might hear those a time or two. Why, I have dead relatives from there. So, I'll tell you a joke about my dead relatives from Nova Scotia instead of the boring details. Yeah, some wonderful immigration there. I think a lot of great people could trace back to that part of this continent. And I do believe you have Pema Chodron in a monastery in your neighborhood, so immediately a little bit jelly. I know. Maya says, I don't know who authorized the bad weather that keeps your paint from you. I know, and it's like, I'm the one suffering the absolute least from this incredibly wintry weather system that's coming in, so. Yeah, lots of people. I hope they're staying warm. I hope they've got their supplies. Well, I think we might have just gotten to it. Oh, those colors are pretty yummy. I do. I do like that. We've got some amethyst and some tourmaline pink, or maybe some rhodonite pink. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not telling any secrets about what might be in the paint box. Some beautiful amber or citrine colors, and it's just like we cracked open a big nodule of crystals from Brazil, isn't it? Oh, okay. Crystal is, yeah, I'm not going to read that out loud because we do need to be mindful of keeping our locations, somewhat discreet about that. But that is fantastic, and I hope that there are talks or events and that you're able to, nice. I hope that you're able to uh, maybe go there and just soak up some of that Buddhist loving kindness, that Maitri. I've seen the Dalai Lama speak. I've not had the privilege of seeing Pema Chodron speak, but books and books on tape. Alrighty, that is probably the wrong cap for that spray bottle. There we go. All right, end of show art stream. End of stream art show. Yeah, I might sneak another layer of these guys. Let me just kind of pick these up. Oof, still damp. Alrighty, so we started with some just a little lemon yellow and some carmine and something I thought was, it's not quinacridone magenta. It must be, I don't know, some watercolor paint. You don't have to know. You just have to have fun with it. I don't know if you can see how the color is diffused and it's softened and it's run into each other and just blended in a really visually pleasing sort of way. I don't think I'm going to put more paint on. I really like where it's at. I might put some gel or some watercolor pencil, something that I can place really in a very finicky, precise way. There's the cobalt blue with some touches of the cyan. Sort get a little puddle and run of water. None of these are mistakes for the uses we're going to put these squares to. And it's still wet. Okay. Dun dun dun. Here's the first one that we did with the Cascade Green. And it really hasn't shifted much from the last time I showed you. Here's the color. Same color. That's the same color there. Just using a wash. It's like 6 paints for one. This one we've got a puddle of kind of the paint in mass tone where it's not too much water and it's not spread out, and then with quite a bit of water added into it. Just pardon me while my mind is blown. Here's another super granulating color called Undersea Green. And the granulating, it's these little specks that are settled out into the texture of the paper. Pretty fun. Now, here is a single pigment color, magnesium green, and it's pretty. But it just has a different character, I think. There's something that's just more complex, mysterious. We've got a little bit of shift in the colors. This looks like it was, and it is. The paint is made from, I want to say 2 or 3 pigments in this one. And this is pretty sure this is a single pigment paint. I can check. Let's just be accurate. One doesn't want to get accused of being deceptive or misleading. Yes, the pigment is PB36. That stands for pigment blue number 36. And I think it's gorgeous, but it is just got a different dry down. There it's really clear. I think that the differences between your standard watercolor paint and a super granulating paint. Alrighty. Do we have any outstanding questions in the chat? Should we take a look here? I'll just take a nice. All right, we've got some yeah. Maya hails from Norway. Yeah. Lovely. Wonderful. Yeah, there's folks chatting with each other in the chat, so that, I think, for me, I'm so pleased by that. I think once a channel can kind of get enough people that we've got, I love interacting with you, but I don't have to read all of your, feel free to have conversations with each other. Don't feel that you always have to have your conversation back and forth to me. I'm here to facilitate, and just pleased as can be when there is any kind of artists connecting with artists. That's what we're here for. We're not here to like, this isn't fine art. I mean, sometimes I'm doing fine art, but I'm not here to give you a tutorial on fine art. I'm here to, as some have said, draw some circles on paper. What the heck is going on there? What's going on is the connection of artists who might find themselves kind of in different corners of the world. And I hate to think that we feel isolated and alone. And if we can support each other in our pursuit of an artistic practice and fill the world with more art and get a few more people to pick up their pens, pencils, paintbrushes, sculpting chisels, woodworking tools, get out the bread bowl, whatever it is. Shall we throw another layer on this one? And let's just do that. I'm feeling like green, like a nice bright green. I know it's a surprise that I was like, how about green? Do love some green. Mixing up a little sap green with some May green over here on the palette. Now some of these backgrounds will have very often 3 layers, sometimes as many as 5 layers, depending on how it looks. And I will sometimes really cover them with paint, let it dry down, and then I take them to the sink with a plastic scrub brush and take off paint. I mean, I really, it's just a piece of paper, so I'm not afraid to add things or to subtract things, because the play is where you learn what your media will do. Every time I do a 3 or 4 inch square, I learn a little bit more about what the paint does. So, and even if I cover it with paint, take it to the sink, scrub it, and part tears off, I'm still learning something. And there's really not a big, art foul or faux pas. It's just because it's just a piece of paper, just a little bit of paint, not the end of the world. If you are struggling with perfectionism, I will tell you that watercolor will it just won't allow you to do that. You'll have to paint for years before you're really able to be a top-notch perfectionist and a watercolor painter. But if you're getting yourself bound up and stopped in your art because of your perfectionism, sometimes switching it up and going to a media that is its own whimsical participant in the process can be it could just really shift how you're working, and it can help you break out when you are cornered, when you've cornered yourself with some rigid expectations about what your art ought to look like, or okay, it just can't get the wash smooth. Well, all right, so we'll shift over. Paint some blobs. If you're looking at it and you're going, golly, everything looks like a blob. Well, shift, paint some. Maybe you're a really good blob painter. We don't know. And if I can do this and draw circles on paper and have it come out, I just give yourself permission to play and figure out what your expression is. And I hope that you're able to do it mindfully and increase your own sense of well-being and relaxation as you do it. Yeah. Mistakes mean progress. Absolutely. Maya's been on this, love this thought, that you learn more from your messes than your successes. Oh, thank you, Maya. She just gave me a compliment on putting the right colors together. I'm I've got yeah, don't feel badly about this. I've been studying art pretty much, from middle school when I could take art classes by choice, and studied fine art in college for a couple of years, and I'm in my 60s. I'm in my 7th decade going around the sun, and I've had a lot of um, I may or may not have owned a flower shop where my actual job was to put colors together in visually pleasing ways. So um, it is something that comes with practice. Every time you put something on the paper and you go, well, that doesn't, that's, wow, that makes my eyeballs hurt. But you learn. You'll do it a little bit differently the next time. So practice, practice, practice. And your color sense, you could spend 63 years like I have, your color sense is going to be different. And thank goodness for that. Do we want, you know, Rembrandt to have the same color sense as Van Gogh? I mean, if everybody was just doing things like Rembrandt, the world would be full of brown and gray and ecru paintings. Thank goodness for a guy like Van Gogh. I've been in kind of a down mood, so I'm trying to do things that are maybe some more uplifting colors here. And I'm just going straight out of the half pans. I'm not even going to mix this. We're just going to... Oh, I want some water on the paper. Hey, it's Sophia. I'm so glad to see you. I have missed you up in here. Oh, God, that's just so delicious, isn't it? This is a red-violet color. Thio-violet is what this is. And I'm putting it on fairly thick because I would love it to just wander its way on this paper. So those blues were pretty cool toned. This is a very warm toned color. Colors don't have to match. They don't have to be. Um, like you might put two colors on the paper, and your eyeball might go, "Wow, that's not working." Where did that go? We did one the other day, and it was a yellow, and then I brought in some Payne's gray that ended up reading really like looked like a taxi cab almost. This one. So if you can imagine what it was like with those gray squiggles on a yellow background, it was not inspiring. And it's got a couple of washes on there of, well, it's a pale blue, and I don't recall off the top of my head what it is. Looks like something I mixed. And I'll give it another wash. And then we splattered some quinacridone gold on it. So a lot of times your work will have what I call an ugly phase. Just keep working through. There's probably a third color that you can bring into it that will add a dynamic, shift it, bring it along. But most everything, it is absolutely part of the process for things to just be, uh, wow, that hurts my eyes to look at. Ugly. I mean, seriously. So the paint, you see it where it's wet and it's just blooming out, and then it was a little drier over here. Yeah, just add a little water. It just seems like such a simple media, and then um, I think I could paint with this for the next 20 years, should I be so lucky to have another 20 years, and I would still probably be delighted by it and surprised by it. Well, definitely for another 10 years. I would hope at 20 years I would maybe have some sense of mastery over it and have some thoughts as to, yeah, that's going to behave, you know, have some, what do I want to say, expectations, some learned experience about what that's going to do, how that paint is going to perform on the paper. Ooh, can we shift that with a little bit of that? Gotta get the paint nice and got it a little bit more watered down, this blue that I'm bringing in. I want to try to get it concentrated so that I can bring my swirl to a, so if you're here for the last live stream, we were talking about things that we could do to give art back to the community, and we were speaking about the neighborhood library boxes. And I will from time to time take books, and I thought, I bet I could create some bookmarks to just tuck into those. Wouldn't that be fun? Come to little giveaway libraries and there's a beautiful arty bookmark tucked into your new read. Just a little color therapy for somebody out there. Making my brain think about. I was pausing, so I want to go with quinacridone gold. It is a bit of a, it is a, it is the class clown of watercolor paints. But let's just turn it loose. We'll see. It's going to cause some mischief right here in between Verona, Green Earth, and that's okay. There we go. We'll do something else to this. But we'll start with that first layer. I'm just having so much fun here, you guys. Let's see what this one's going to look like on some craft paper. Sophia, I occasionally turn my kind of non-awesome color plays into bookmarks. Right? I love that. I love that. I feel like this one, maybe something that's opaque, that has some PW6, which is pigment, white, titanium white. Oh, I love artist trading cards. Maya says, set the paint free from the tube or the pan. Yeah, it's not happy in there. It's all just trapped in the pan. It wants to come out, and yeah, I'm not sure about this craft, but we'll start. So on the side of the tubes of paint, there's information. Paint tube on artist quality paints. It's in the fine print here. This pigment in this particular paint is genuine zoisite. That's the mineral from which we get tanzanite. And it's been ground up and formulated into a paint. But those pigment numbers, you can go online and you could Google PW6 and you would learn about the properties of titanium white. It makes your paint a little bit more opaque. So this paint is very translucent, and this one has that white. The white's going to catch the light, and the light's not going to travel through it to the paper and bounce off. If paper's nice and white, you like a translucent pigment because the light will be reflected off the white, and it'll give that luminous quality that watercolors are known for. Now this paint is going to reflect back craft paper brown, so I'm looking for a paint that has some white pigment in it. Hopefully that'll give us some color visible on the surface of the paper. There's always a bit of technical info that either is coming from my brain of random art facts or else the chat. Oop, not too watery. This is buff titanium. This one might just end up being a background with another piece of paper that runs down the center. I don't know. We'll just see where they go. Just no destination in mind. Just plopping a little paint here and there. Oh, Crystal, I'm so glad that we have run into each other on the internet, and I think you're just gonna really feel at home here. I hope that that's what's going on. All right, one last look at the. No, I think we ran through stuff, but I am going to do just a quick run through of what we've done today because I'd like to put that at the end of every video. Now, if you are curious about what gets done, what paintings have some progress made on them, I always try to run through and do an art show at the very end of the video. one of these days I'm going to figure out an efficient way to do chapter breaks, and we'll have that in the description. We don't yet. I think I might have one or two videos in there somewhere that have some chapters. But your channel has to kind of get to a certain size before you can automatically have that YouTube do it for you. And, why work hard? Work smarter. So here's, we'll just we'll just work backwards today. See how that thioviolet is just starting to diffuse into the wet paper. And once it dries down, I know I'm going to have a couple spots with hard edges, and I will be able to take a brush, wet it. It's one of the advantages of watercolor media, and then I can work that hard edge out. I'll just get it wet and just locally re-wet that paint and take that hard edge out. And I might spend a day with a stack of these, and that's what I'm in the mood to do, is just take the hard edges off of things. Not just the paint. Just speaking metaphorically there. So let's pull these white guys out so I don't drop something in and ruin them. Or inadvertently add a step I didn't want to. Sorry, there, now my sound was cutting in and out. I was leaning away from the phone. Yeah, there's that bright green with the sort of floral colors behind. Maybe we'll shift. Maybe we'll draw a few flowers in here. It doesn't always have to be circles and rocks. Still really like, this was one pass, 3 colors, but I'll save that one for last. Another quick, we dabbled in the Cascade green again. There's just a wash of it. Here's some more of a wash, and then more of a thicker deposition of paint. Those are not from today. And then if you want to contrast a basic watercolor, still beautiful. It's that magnesium green from Grumbacher Academy. You can find that in most craft stores. It's one of the, I would say, student grade, but maybe a little bit better than your average student grade. Really nice flow to it. Your basic sets of 12 are going to contain colors like this. It's not going to contain these artist grade super granulating watercolors. Those are the bells and whistles, I would say. And colors, magnesium green is not a standard color. You're probably not going to find that in any set of 12, but that's like a meat and potatoes kind of a color. In your basic sets, you will find ultramarine blue. That is a granulating color. And yeah, here's a wash that's called ultramarine blue. So it's got a lot of character. It's got pigment that clumps together and settles out. Just does it. That's just the way it works. And then here's our pebble drawing for this episode. Yeah, I think that one turned out, really just happy with the colors. I think we've got some nice negative spaces. I've managed to leave white. I do want a star for that. It's a challenge. I get that paintbrush going, and the paint wants to go on the paper. So, yeah, we did. Yeah, I will give myself some gold stars for leaving white. That's the day. If you paint with watercolors, the day that you can get yourself to do that that's a good day on your journey to watercolor painting. And we'll take a quick look at your lovely comments here. Yeah. Sophia, it's good. You've got, I'll look back on the chat and see what this was about, but I don't know if you're talking about metaphorically getting your boots a little muddy. I think there's been a lot of that in my life in the last couple of weeks. And if you were out outdoors doing it, I mean, gold star to you because yay. Anytime you go outside on a day, you get some credit. Sometimes it's a struggle. Yeah. Crystal Seeker started making artist trading cards in 2014 and mixed media them some painting. So oh no, no, you give yourself credit there. I won't hear of this not long really. You if you've started, oh my gosh, that's so much progress. Um, just giving yourself permission to get those colored pencils and a coloring book. That can take years. So if you've started, I'm just hooray. Yay for you. Keep going. You're going to have so much fun. I just know it. Um, just want to lend you some enthusiasm if you're feeling like you need a little bit. And see, here's how I know you'll just fit in right around here. She's art hoarder syndrome as well. So welcome to the club. Yeah, stay away from Maya. Use caution around Maya. Mm, yes. Makmir Doshagal. It's not hoarding, it's leaving yourself all the creative outlets. See? It's not a. Yeah. We are a. What's the word I want here? Yeah, we will enable. We will not put a parking brake on any of that. If you, life is short, eat all the chocolate and get all of the art supplies. So wonderful, wonderful. Now actual mud. Oh golly. Oh, we'll end with that one. This vision of our friend in Germany going down the snowy pier yesterday and watching the frozen lake. Oh, you're a marvelous. Maybe Maya says she wants some clarification on that. I think you're a marvelous influence. That's how I'd phrase that. So thanks everybody. Thanks for just spending some time doing some art. I hope that you will be able to just take a breath for some mindfulness. You're gonna be breathing anyway, and if you can crack out a little bit of art, just break out, get into your. I know there's a little stash of something with color somewhere. I hope in your world. Thanks again to Maya, and thanks to Replay Crew. And I know if you're in here chatting with me, you're subscribed, but I'm still on the drive. I'm getting really close to that. Well, I don't know if I'm getting really close. I'm over 60% of the way to my goal with that. So welcome anybody who wants to come and subscribe to my channel and be part of this. And appreciate your comments. Feel free to leave them. Ask your questions. And have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you on the next live stream. Bye. Hi, you there, Irish Mart. Thanks for hanging with us. The bye comes in stages. I do try to say bye and bye and out, but I know I have to wait several hours for this to process to catch your last words, so. All right. Until next time, it's just try to make some art, and if it goes a little sideways, just remember it's only paper. You can do it. Bye.